screen recording these sessions so that you can catch them at another point. So hopefully that's helpful to people. I'm just screen recording my little face in the middle. So there will be a place to catch up on these later. So those that you don't know, I'm known as the Queen of Calm. My name is Clare and I'm known as the Queen of Calm. And as I've just said, I'm a human potential catalyst, which means I help you to get out of your own way. Of course, if you believe that self-sabotage is one of your issues, then you will probably feel like you are often in your own way. So today we're going to talk about self-sabotage, and we're going to talk about uncovering the innate potential for success, which I really do believe is in everyone. So as part of starting this and introducing myself, I'm going to talk to you about my self-sabotage story, because I have one of those. Who knew that was a thing? I have a self-sabotage story. And it all began, my idea, I guess I'd never heard of self-sabotage until I started my own business. So those of you who don't know, I was a primary school head teacher. I burnt out in 2015, walked into work one day, took one look at my computer, couldn't face switching it on, walked out, never went back. I was adrenally absolutely shattered. It's probably adrenally burnt out completely. And I guess what the resulting illness, if you like, that I suffered from, I guess you would call chronic fatigue syndrome. I was absolutely shattered. I could barely function, and I used to look at the dishwasher and feel exhausted just looking at it. And I know I've got people in the room today who are struggling with these kind of things, so I can really empathise with that. And then in the end, I was off sick for a year. I couldn't work for a year. Kept trying to go back, and that it just didn't work. My body said no. Every time I even started thinking about work, I started to feel terrible again, and that was because the thinking was the stress. There was nothing outside of me that was creating the stress. Thinking about work, stressful thoughts, started to feel stress, and of course my adrenals just went, "We're not doing this anymore. We're done. We're not doing it." So I resigned on the 1st of April 2016. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life, literally no idea. And then 10 days after that, I got an email inviting me to train to be a hypnotherapist. So I started a business completely accidentally. Didn't even know I was going to start a business when I went on the training, let alone sort of after, it was during the training that I realised that was a thing that people were guiding me to do. Now, the thing about starting a business for me was that I was trying to fit myself into a box that wasn't the right box. So I thought there was a box called business owner, and I thought it was a very rigid box like this, very square, very, you've got to look like this kind of person, a square person. Not that people who are business owners are square, but you know what I mean. It looked like it had to look a certain way, that I had to be motivated all the time, on it all the time, smashing all my goals and planning everything to the nth degree and all that kind of thing. And I really thought that was what being a business owner meant. And I didn't fit in. I was more of a curvy, floaty shape, and didn't fit into that box. Energetically, I was very kind of up and down. I wasn't this straight line. Thought you were supposed to be a straight line energy person to be in business. And I think, and this is nothing against men that are in this room or men generally, but that is a male energetic system, 24-hour energetic system, rather than a 28-day energetic system, which is very much more of a feminine one. And I know there are lots of men who are also rejecting this kind of hustle, be on it all the time thing. So no, I'm not just speaking to women, but energetically we physiologically have a 28-day cycle. And then I think the moon plays a part in that too. And we're all influenced by that because we're all made of water, aren't we? So I tried really hard. Now this is where my self-sabotage story comes in. So this was the story that I bought into because of the kind of therapeutic work I did. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Gary. Cheers. That's so nice. Yeah, so I'm just smiling now. This was the story. This is Claire's self-sabotage story. So because of the therapeutic work that I was involved in, I learnt this story. Now listen, I learnt this story. It's not a true story. It's a story that I wrapped around my behaviour and I made it mean things. So watch out for that, because there's a lot of that going on in the world right now. So the story was, I felt that on a daily basis I procrastinated too much. That I didn't do... I used to have this... Has anybody else done the 12-week year planning system, where you break the year up into 4 chunks of 13 weeks. You plan for 12 weeks quite meticulously. So you have 2 or 3 goals. I'm doing it like this because that was how the form that I used to fill in looked. It had 2 or 3 goals, and then week by week you would plan out your tasks that you were going to do to try and get yourself to do the goal. And it used to be about week 3 before I'd written the plan. I would then not do the tasks on the plan. I would feel like I was procrastinating a lot, and beat myself up about that. Anybody else beat themselves up about procrastination or anything else for that matter? And the story underneath that, the self-sabotage story, was this. I'm procrastinating because, and that's a form of self-sabotage. Anybody else made that connection? Procrastination is self-sabotage. And I'm doing that because I don't feel good enough in some way, shape or form. Like, that can often be the underpinning story of self-sabotage, can't it? We don't feel good enough, so we ruin our chance of success because we don't think we deserve it. Anybody else heard that story before? That's another common story. So my story was procrastination, self-sabotage, don't feel good enough. And the reason I didn't feel good enough was because when I was 3, my parents outrageously created another child, my little brother. And I did a lot of poking around in the past, including sort of regression and inner child work, to go and look at the past. Apparently, like, those things are really in there. Not. I really don't believe they are now, but I did then. And I would go and have these hypnotherapy sessions where I'd go into the past and I'd observe memories of the past and see how awful it was for the little me and try and heal all that and all of this stuff. And this is where it really kind of, I started to go, hang on a minute, is this right? Was that one of the memories I went back to in one of these snotty crying inner child sessions? Because when you're under hypnosis, you don't actually know that you're crying and there's snot dribbling down your face. So you wake up and you're like an absolute mess. And one of the memories I went back to was that my granddad giving my little brother too much attention, and little stroppy 3 or 4 year old me not very happy with this, observing this scenario of my brother getting all the attention. It was all about that. It was all about my brother gets too much attention. And I'm a 3-year-old who can't handle that. And that's how I learned I wasn't good enough, because they had another child. I mean, the story's just ridiculous. And the memory was, so granddad, my mum's dad, is giving my brother too much attention. And I happened to tell my mum about this session, and she said, that's not true. She said, your granddad died before your brother was born. Now, what I think happens there is that if we ask our brain a question, it's damn well going to find an answer. It's going to find an answer for us. even if the answer is utter rubbish. So it's really important to realise that we, in terms of our relationship with the past, that isn't, it isn't true. You know, we make stuff up, we rethink stuff, we twist stuff, we misremember. Emotion comes in and that makes things different. So I'm just checking the comments because I was very focused. And bless you, Jenny, for watching out for Deborah there. Deborah, bless you. Goodness gracious. I'm not surprised you are exhausted. That's a lot to go through. And I think what I would say to anybody who's been through a lot, the last few years have been challenging, haven't they? That you're human. And don't think you're not supposed to be feeling things like that. And I hope you have some opportunity to take care of yourself, Deborah. And maybe being here is part of that. And if you're a bit stuck now, maybe that's where you just need to be for now. While your system just assimilates everything that you've been through. Like, be kind to yourself. Really be kind to yourself, Deborah. I would say that to anybody who's been through all that. That's an awful lot to go through. So I think Jenny's sending you a hug. I'm definitely sending you a hug. And I'm sure everybody else in here is sending you a hug too. Because that's, that's really difficult. So lots of love, Deborah. So self-sabotage. What even is it? So that's my little self-sabotage story. So I bought into that story, and as a result, I thought I had to stop doing that. Now this is how I see it differently now. All the planning, so much planning, all that 12-year planning, all that kind of trying to control the outcomes, trying to control the future, was very much my style of life, really. I've mentioned before that being a control freak, I'm a recovering control freak. I think, you know how people who are alcoholics say they're always an alcoholic. I don't really believe that, but I'm still a recovering. I'm still a control freak, really, at heart. Less and less so. But I was a control freak, so. Here's me in the moment, planning all this planning and doing all this thing. And then I get to like week 3 of the plan, and the present moment me goes, yeah, but that's not really where I'm inspired to go. It's so often, so that kind of aspect of self-sabotage where we set ourselves out to do something and then we don't do it. Like anybody here experience that? We set ourselves up to do something and then we don't do it. That's what we would probably call self-sabotage, isn't it? That's one aspect of it. I would say probably, Caitlin, welcome all the time. Yeah, and I still do it. I still do it regularly. But I don't care quite so much as I used to. I don't think it's a problem as much as I used to. Because actually it isn't. It isn't really a problem. Unless we think it is. Yep, Lisa, that used to be me too, definitely, with exercise. But I'm a morning exerciser now, mostly. Walking's the thing that's gone a bit off for me recently. I used to do a lot more walking. And now the weather's really nice and I'm not walking as much. I walked loads in the winter. I don't know what that's about. So I do want to probably get my walking back up again. But it's just the phrase to me, self-sabotage, and I'm still kind of seeing this, it's a horrible phrase, actually. Like, it's just horrible, isn't it? Like, the idea that we would sabotage ourselves. First of all, does anybody else think it sounds really deliberate? Like there's a deliberate self, a deliberate you, sabotaging yourself. Like, you know, that you should be able to get a grip of that or control it in some way or do better in some way. Does that, it's not nice, is it? Like, now, here's how I see human behaviour in general. Everybody is doing the best they can with the thinking that looks true to them. Everybody. And I even mean people who do horrible, horrible things. Not just sabotage themselves, but sabotage other people. Or sabotage the environment or whatever else. I really do see the you know, the psychological innocence of everyone, really. And I think, whereas what we tend to think is, like, if I notice a self-sabotage, I judge myself as being out of order and wrong, then I'll get better and I'll do better than I did before. But that's not how it works, because this is what happens. We feel bad about ourselves, and then whatever it was we were doing, the self-sabotaging behaviour, we just do more of it. We don't do less because we don't like ourselves and we're upset with ourselves. So, I mean, often self-sabotage is spoken about in terms of food or alcohol or cigarettes or those kind of things. But do we, oh, thank you so much, Jenny, bless you. Do we do less of those things when we think we've self-sabotaged and we think we've done the wrong thing and we think we've not behaved right and we've been rubbish and we should have done better, and, you know, we're shouldifying ourselves. That's one of my very wonderful made-up words that I like to use a lot. When we've shoudified ourselves, do we do better? Are we less likely to do the behaviour that we don't think we should be doing? Are we more likely to do the things we plan to do? I don't think so. Because here's the thing, when we are upset and we think that activities and things and food and drink and wine and not doing as much work or scrolling on social media or whatever is going to make us feel better, then we will still do the thing. What we really need is to understand that those things, those activities, the self-sabotaging activities, don't make us feel better. It's an illusion. When I was a head teacher, I had many colleagues who said that, you know, when they got home from school, that was wine o'clock. Like there was many teachers. I did once become quite concerned that the vast majority of my teachers were actually alcoholics, because they were relying on alcohol at the end of the day to feel okay. Now, here's what happens when we pick up a bottle of wine with the idea that it's going to make us feel better. Have you noticed that if you are going to do some behaviour that you think is going to make you feel better, have you noticed that you feel better before you even do it? So if you pick up the bottle of wine and pick up the glass, you start to feel better before you've even poured the wine and put it in your mouth. And the reason why is because A, you believe it's going to make you feel better, and B, you've got a habit there that you know it looks like it's made you feel better before, so you kind of got a belief system there, and your belief system reinforces the feeling, and also your thinking is on something else. So let's say you come home from work, you've had one of those days, like for my teachers when I was a head teacher, they'd have had one of those days, you know, with a certain class who've just been an absolute pain, or a parent shouted at them and they've had a really, or, you know, they've been in trouble with me. You know, I wasn't really like that with my staff, but, you know, they've just had one of those days and they're feeling terrible. And just as soon as they're thinking, right, where's the wine? Oh, it's in this cupboard. Oh, where do I need to get a glass out? And I'm opening the wine and I'm focusing on something else. The reason they start to feel better is they're not thinking about school anymore. They're not thinking about work anymore. Their thinking has moved on. And it's things like that that are really helpful to understand. Not, yeah, it is like a distraction, Kat. It really is like a distraction. It really is like a distraction. And you could equal it. And that's why, when people do start to give up things like that, they may well replace it with something else. So that's why people go from... I had a friend once, and she, I guess back then I would have said she had an addictive personality. I wouldn't say that now. There's no such thing as an addictive personality. But because she was in this misunderstanding that the feelings came from the outside world, she just jumped from one thing to the next in terms of doing them a lot and a lot and a lot. Well, not necessarily, Kat. So distraction is sometimes one of the things that I use when I realise that my thinking is making me feel unpleasant. Sometimes. So I had an incident quite a few months ago now. It's probably last year, actually. Time goes so fast. Anyway, my son got upset with me about something that I'd put on social media because he's a blue tick kind of a guy and he's on television, so he got upset with me for something I'd commented on something, and he'd seen it and he didn't think I should have commented on Instagram. I got into bother. And he messaged me on Instagram with this very long message on Instagram. Blah, 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 you shouldn't have done that, and da 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 da. And it was not nice. He was not speaking how one should speak to one's mother. That was what was going on in my head anyway. I was quite upset about it. I was quite like, how very dare you speak to me? And I could feel that. Because what we're pointing to here is feelings are letting us know that our thinking is out of kilter. So I noticed the feeling, and I knew that in that state of mind, because that's what this awful riled up feeling was telling me, that in this state of mind, it was not a good idea to speak to my son. Because I was going to be upset, I was probably going to be angry, I was probably going to be frustrated, etc., etc. And I knew that that wasn't a good idea. Now, he wasn't happy with that. I sent him a holding message. I just said, Jack, I'm not really in a good place to speak to you about this at the moment. Perhaps we can talk about it later. And he wasn't happy, kept trying to phone me. So I switched my volume off and just shut my phone and left it to one side. And I then found myself quite wound up, but realising that I needed to do something. It just made sense to do something. So then, Kat, it was like I just did some admin on my computer. Couldn't have written anything or done anything creative or done anything particularly useful, but there was a bit of admin I could do. So I kind of just did a bit of admin, and I noticed that within sort of 5 minutes, the whole thing had passed. It was fine, and I noticed myself getting calmer, and then I sent him a message late that day and said, do you want to talk about this now? I'm in a better place. And he never did, because of course by that point he had also calmed down and he'd realised that he didn't need to do anything about this. It was all he'd got a bit riled up as well. So we never had a conversation about it. We didn't need to. There was absolutely no need. I had understood very clearly that he didn't want me to comment on this particular person's page. So that was that. I didn't do it again because there was no point. But so distraction can come to mind when we realise that we're stirred up. And I think that's when we think about self-sabotage, it's just feeling management. Every behaviour is only really feeling management, particularly those behaviours that we look at and go, oh, I kind of wish I didn't do that. It's all feeling management behaviour. It's all in this misunderstanding of where our feelings coming from which I call the outside in misunderstanding, which is rife. So those of you that have just come in, hello, we've got quite a lot of people come in. I'll just do a little bit more about me. So I share something called the 3 principles. I think the track's gone live now, the one that's about what are the 3 principles and how are they helpful. I feel like I'm going to do a course on that as well at some point, but that's now live on the site. So you can go and listen to that track and find out a little bit more about the 3 principles. What I say to people, and welcome new people, if you've just come in, say hello. Let me know what's brought you here today, probably the topic of self-sabotage. If you've missed this, I will be popping it onto my YouTube playlist. If you hop over to my profile, there is a link there on my profile, and that takes you to my Pensite page, which is quite new, and I'm quite excited about it because it's a great way to find out more about me. So that's the link that you can click on. So the 3 principles is a really simple understanding of how the mind works. It's a transformative conversation that I have with people, guiding them to understand that their feelings do not come from the outside world, that feelings come from the inside of us, but not in a way to kind of try and control our thoughts and feelings. That's not it. It's about changing our relationship with them. So I truly do believe that mental illness is being caused by a not very healthy relationship with feelings. Oh, Jess, that's a good question. Now, well, yes, actually. Interestingly, I did, Jess. My hypnotherapy business was pretty successful, actually. It only died because of the lockdown. Because it was in person. People used to come to this room and see me here. And because I'd come across the 3 principles in January 2020, when my business collapsed because of lockdown, I didn't try and save it. I let it go off with coronavirus and go into the middle distance and disappear, because I knew I wanted to share this understanding by then. I couldn't not. I knew that I'd seen something so life-changing, and I wanted to share that with other people. So I let go of the hypnotherapy business and retrained and moved across to sharing this understanding. But prior to that, yes, I was doing all right, actually. It's quite a good little business. Yes, and that's ironic, isn't it? Because the self-sabotage story. Tell me more about that, Jess. That could make a difference to how capable one is in resolving those behaviours. Yeah, I would say that, yeah, business success in that traditional sense of making money, I guess, and having clients and making enough money and having enough clients and that kind of thing, definitely can seem like it can be, I don't know, I'm seeing this more and more differently now. Like I really don't know if there is such a thing as self-sabotage. I think there's a human being doing the best they can in the moment. And I don't think making up a concept like self-sabotage is actually helpful. I mean, clearly I've shared it as a topic because it's what people understand. How do I share what I want to say about this without saying it? If you know what I mean. So I know it's something that people understand as a phrase. They understand it's a thing. But as I keep saying, I just don't know that it's not a human being doing the best they can. And I don't think that by beating ourselves up about it, we're going to get better results in any aspect of our life, whether that's in business, Jess, or whether that's in some health aspect of our lives where self-sabotage can be spoken about, or anything else. So what I would say has happened over the last 3 years is my My relationship with my behaviour has changed. I don't see it as much as I see it less and less as a problem. And the result of that has been more productivity. So obviously there are there's lots of self-sabotage stories. Some of them are around not looking after ourselves properly. Some of them might be around not doing the things we say we're going to do. Mine was mine has been that other one, actually, over the years. It's been food. Food was a big thing for me. Oh, hello, Juliet. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Juliet. That's lovely. How disruptive to my overall... Well, do you know what, Jess? Mostly because I just was horrible to myself about it. And spent hours a week trying to fix it. So I would spend 10 hours a week on self-development, on books about habits, on techniques and tools to get myself into the right state. You know, have we got any other Tony Robbins? I'm not going to say I'm a Tony Robbins fan, really, because I'm not, but I'm a recovering Tony Robbins fan. So I used to spend a lot of time trying to get myself jizzed up enough to do the work that I thought I should be doing. Now, what I see now is that I'm much more guided from the present moment. And the result of that is a lot of productivity. I don't do much planning. Sometimes at the start of the day, I will write a little list of things I'd like to get done today, but it's not very rigid. And sometimes things stay on the list a while. But in the meantime, I find myself following my intuition and just going in the direction that I'm pulled to go in. And that might not be what I originally said I was going to do. Like at the moment, I'm having this phase of phoning people. Radical. Actually picking up the phone and calling people and saying, hey, I was just thinking about you, and this is, do you want to talk, or I've got this idea, it might be something for you, or just picking up the phone, saying hello to people. Like, I've never done much of that, really. It's always been a messenger, hide behind the email and hide behind the messages. Oh, Julia, it is a lovely book. Oh, the next... Yeah, so once you've done The Enlightened Gardener, hopefully the rest of Sydney's books are now on Audible, if that's where you're listening to. But also, so there's an Enlightened Gardener Revisited, which is nice because it's a lovely... If you've enjoyed those characters, then you will enjoy the revisited version, so I'd go for that as the next book. And then... Second Chance is lovely, and the sequel to that, which I can't remember the title of, but if you search for Sydney Banks on Amazon or any other good bookseller, of course, you will find those. So Jess, I'm just going back to your comment about finding different ways to approach emotions one tries to deal with. Well, I think more than finding different ways to approach them, it's understanding them. So where I'm pointing to in this 3 principles conversation is that we're looking to understand what an emotion actually is. Self-sabotage, if we're going to call it that, comes from a misunderstanding about where our feelings come from. Oh, I haven't come across that one, Jenny. I'll have a look at that. Yep, Michael Neal is a 3 principles coach. So The Inside Out Revolution, that's quite a nice book. Nice and simple, like that one. So we're talking about the inside out understanding right now. That's why the 3 principles is often called the inside out understanding, because it is pointing to the feeling, what a feeling really is. So Jenny, what you were saying there about really what I'm pointing to, scroll down, is to understanding an emotion. So if we think an emotion is to do with either A, a problem in our world, or B, a problem with us, then we will seek to sort it out in that way. So we'll either seek to fix ourselves, which I did for a long time, or we'll seek to control the outside world, which I'd done prior to that. So my run up to burnout was me trying to control the outside world, and then afterwards, when I started my business, it was about trying to control me through tools and techniques. So it's the same thing really. It's trying to create a different feeling by doing something in the outside world, either doing something with other people and circumstances and trying to control them, or trying to do something to ourselves, like tools, techniques, therapy, whatever, to try and fix ourselves. The issue is that feelings are just information. So that is the most, for me, I think, the most powerful piece of learning that I have done in the last 3 years while I've been studying this understanding. It's the most powerful thing. A feeling is an information, is a piece of information. It's letting you know about your state of mind. And both my courses are 3 principles based courses, and definitely, worth going, like Juliet's saying, bless her, Juliet, she's like my number one fan. Hopefully any minute now the smoke alarm's going to stop. Clearly I'm having a meal cooked. He doesn't normally burn things, bless him. So Bruce is next door in the kitchen cooking my tea. Evening meal. I've got to have it early, and I've got to go soon because I am actually going out into Leeds. Not partying or anything, just to a networking event. So I will let you know. So I will close shortly. Actually, I've just seen the time, and I have clearly lost track of it because I'm having too much fun. So if you've just arrived, there will if you go over to my link in my bio, you can catch this where I'm uploading it onto YouTube. Might not do it now because I've got to dash out the door. Might do it later. It really does smell burnt, actually. Smelling burning. So what are we on? So tomorrow at 8:05 UK time in the morning, we're on BST, accessing effortless flow and creative potential. And as I am now screen recording them, if you miss it, you will be able to catch up with them. And then 12:45 PM on Friday, the power of presence, revealing potential in the now. So everything this month is about revealing your potential, or reaching your potential, your true potential, whatever you want to call it. Really, it's about getting out of your own way so that you can be everything that you are capable of being. And that is, and I truly believe that's way beyond anything you think it might be. Way beyond that. So I really do recommend, like Juliet's my number one fan, bless her. Well, she's not one. I've got lots of lovely fans, but thank you, Juliet, for my course. You talk about my courses a lot, which is lovely. So we've got revealing your full potential with the 3 principles, and calm, balance, and clarity with these. I do have a group, Ava, but it's called. I've actually got I can put it in the chat. Whoops, hang on. The mouse isn't there. There we go. It's called Calm Life, Calm Business, but I might be changing the name of it. So bear with me. You can join it though. The aim of that is to be able to ask me questions and connect with me, but it's got a very low membership at the moment, so I'm not really sure. Anybody's got any groups there on Insight Time and can give me some tips, please do send me a message about growing the group, because I would like to have a community space. I love the idea of a community. And having more conversations with people on there, and finding out from you what's getting in your way so I can talk about that, because I've got a month's worth of sessions about this revealing your potential topic, and then the course which supports that, and the tracks that I'm also uploading. I've got now a couple of I've got one premium meditation. It's all on this same kind of topic, so you can go and have a look at that too when they're released. The premium meditation thing is coming out soon. I'm not sure entirely when, sometime this month. So thank you so much for Jenny, who made a donation earlier. If you are able to make a donation today because you found this helpful, or you just want to support Insight Timer and me, then I would be really, really grateful for that. I think I've only mentioned it once this session. I forgot at the beginning. And if you're new and you don't follow me yet, please go over to my profile and follow me, and then you'll get to know straight away when there's something new on here. And the other thing I would say, I love that Juliet's here today, because Juliet has seen something powerful in this 3 principles understanding, and now she's devouring it, and I know that will be life-changing for her. So if you enjoy listening to my content, great, but do listen, or you'd like to work with me or any of that, please do reach out to me on my link in my bio. But also, please just learn about the 3 principles. Start with Sydney Banks, who's the source. He's the guy who kind of revealed it in the first place. But do find a way to engage with this understanding. It is the most powerful thing that I've ever come across. So I'm going to zip off for now so that I can eat and get out the door on time today. So thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. I will be back a couple more times this week, but please do check out everything else that I've got out there. And thank you so much to Jenny for the donation. And if anybody else is able to make donations to myself and Insight Timer, they are gratefully received. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Some of you, it's quite early still, isn't it? And take care. Thank you so much, everyone. There's been some lovely participation today as well. Thank you. Lots of love.